Hello and welcome back on part 2 of the main highlights presented by Phillips in association with Back Russo. And in this episode we are going to talk about some pretty serious and exceptional timepieces. And I have to admit that being able to see up close and personal all these incredible timepieces is a real and immense privilege for me. I am very fortunate. So well, let's get back with Mr. Bax as soon as now.
Now we're going a little bit upwards in terms of importance and value. Is this reference 530 by Patek Philippe? Patek Philippe didn't make hundreds of references in chronographs. We can count them on two hands, all the chronograph references. But reference 530 was the largest. With a diameter of 36.5 millimeters, it was quite unusual for its time, and when I speak for its time, we're talking about the 1940s and the 1950s. It was quite an unusually large watch. It was made in yellow gold, in pink gold, and also in stainless steel. And this example here has something that is really special. It has Breguet numerals. The Breguet numerals on this dial give it a very, very different look. The Breguet numerals are confirmed in the archives of Patek Philippe, so we do know that this dial was indeed born on this watch. It wasn't later added. And what is the element that pleases any demanding collector most is the condition. This is a sleeping beauty. We are of the opinion that this case was never polished, never touched up since its making in 1949. You have superb angles, a lovely satin finish, an incredibly crisp hallmark. You see this sort of sandblast finish underneath the lugs. The case has only a tiny few little marks showing that someone did wear it for probably just a couple of weeks, not more, but that the watch was since then a sleeping beauty. The dial, the same. It has taken on a warm ivory with a champagne hue patina and was never cleaned, never touched. Nobody ever used a sponge or a brush to remove anything from the dial. It is like a painting that the last person who touched it was the painter, him or herself. If you look at the dial closely, you see it's not perfectly even. It's a little bit lighter on this side here than on the right side. Very typical. This is how nature works and the elements work on a dial. And following the traveling exhibition that we held on 3 continents, I can say that this watch has really provoked the most amazing reactions. Collectors came and were in disbelief. Wow, amazing, que bello, quelle merveille. Across the planet, I can't say it in Chinese, in every language people were saying this is the 530 yellow gold example to own. And I can definitely approve this message. Still talking about Patek Philippe, another treat for the treasure hunter is this pink gold 2497. Reference 2497 was the world's first perpetual calendar wristwatch featuring center seconds. It was a development by Patek Philippe based on caliber 27 SC, their caliber featuring center seconds, to which underneath the dial a perpetual calendar module was added. In total, only some 180 watches were made, but combined yellow gold, pink gold, white gold, platinum, and the same movement was also used, still with these 180 examples, for its sister reference 2438-1, the waterproof version that has a screwback. Pink gold examples of reference 2497 are very rare. We can guess today we know some 20 examples on the planet. And this here is actually completely fresh to the market. And what do I mean by saying fresh to the market? It's not just that someone, a collector, had it, we all knew it existed, it was featured in our database. No, it's a watch that has vanished since it originally sold by Patek Philippe over half a century ago. The watch was made in 1954 and, as things didn't go as quick as these days, was not sold for 6 years. In 1960, eventually, an order came from Sydney, Australia, where someone apparently requested a 2497 pink gold, but with a detachable pink gold bracelet and luminous Dauphine hands. These two features are not at all common for reference 2497, and I can't recall having seen another pink gold example with such a combination, and especially with the luminous hands. In 1960, when the watch reached Australia, it was sold to its original owner, but already 7 years later, probably in about 1967, the watch was sold at a public auction where it was bought by the father of the current owners. According to the family, their father paid a hefty 1,000 Australian dollars back then. That was quite a serious amount of money. And he had it then subsequently serviced in Geneva by Patek Philippe, we think in about 1969. So this first service after 9 years. And since then, the watch was locked away in a vault. In a vault in Sydney, Australia, and only in 2016, last year, the children of the purchaser back then took it out for the first time. It is to me an amazing privilege to offer this watch. This is the type of watch that get us, the passionate specialists, the nerds, up every morning, because we never know what's coming around the corner. But it's also a privilege because it shows us what Patek Philippe was able to do for their clients. It also shows us how a watch looked like when it was delivered to its first owner. These Milanese type bracelets, as you can see in the camera, are very thin, and with wear they can quite easily be broken, damaged. And this bracelet is as rigid and perfectly smooth as the day it was delivered. So I would believe that in its entire life, spanning over 60 years, the watch has probably not seen more than an accumulated month of wear on someone's wrist. Isn't that remarkable? And this is a type of watch that I still believe is worth buying, as it is, in my view, proportionally undervalued compared to other references. And I am really pleased that such a beautiful watch is part of our auction this coming May.
Something interesting to be pointed out is that we often hear about these vintage timepieces being almost as mint as the first day when they came out of the boutiques. They were not worn too much and immediately stored in safes. So what does it tell us about the relationship at the time between these original owners and these objects?
We do not know what the first owner had in mind when he bought the watch and eventually didn't wear it. But when speaking to original owners, we often hear the same story. This was already back then considered a treasure, something special. And no one would wear that type of important, valuable watch daily to go to the office, to go to work, and maybe even do physical work. It was the watch you would wear on special occasions, maybe to the opera, maybe on a holiday. And I think in general, these watches were held in much greater respect back then than we treat them today. I remember my own grandfather who would wear his Omega during the weekdays, but his Patek Philippe, he would at best take it out on his own birthday and maybe on Christmas Eve. And I believe this was a part of the worldwide culture back then.
Well, I guess a few things have changed since then, but let's now talk about what is for sure the superstar of the auction.
The watch that I think is the highlight of the Geneva auction series this coming spring. It is probably, and I don't want to be the person who makes that definitive statement, the probably most important, most valuable, most exclusive Rolex wristwatch in private hands. It is the Bao Dai. The Bao Dai is a Rolex reference 6062, one of two models ever created to feature the self-winding movement by Rolex with triple calendar featuring the weekday, the month, the date outside and the phases of the moon. The sister reference is the 8171. That is, however, not an oyster case. Reference 6062, in my view, is the single Rolex reference that displays best Rolex's savoir-faire, know-how, as it reunites a number of features that all stand for Rolex individually, but we can only find them in one single reference, which is the 6062. It is the oyster case. Rolex and oyster are two names that are today burnt in our minds as the perfect match. It is with the screw back, it has a super oyster crown, it's the waterproof, typical Rolex waterproof case. The word perpetual. Perpetual stands here for self-winding. It was Mr. Wilsdorf's aim, and he achieved it, to make a carefree self-winding wristwatch. And indeed, in the 1930s, he managed to do that. And since then, the word Rolex Oyster Perpetual stood for a perfectly self-winding and water-resistant watch. Not every Rolex is such. We have the Rolex Prince, the snap-on back watches that are not waterproof, and this really ticks every box. It is the most complicated Oyster Perpetual that Rolex ever made. And now here we have, within that specific reference, the most exclusive of all dials. We have the black lacquer dial adorned with diamond hour markers, but only on the even numbers. We know of other examples that have the diamond numerals on the uneven numerals. Now this watch was bought by Bao Dai. Bao Dai himself, the last emperor of Vietnam, when visiting Geneva in about 1954, he went here in the center, not far from here, to the Rolex shop and asked for the most exclusive and most precious Rolex they would possibly be able to offer him. From what I heard from his son, from his late son, he wasn't pleased at all with those humble day justs and humble day dates eventually that would be shown to him. However, after insisting, they agreed to contact the headquarters. Back then, Rolex was in Carouge. They were not yet here in Geneva at François Dussault. And they have told him to wait a moment as la voiture de la direction, the board member's car, would bring a piece they have on the headquarters vault to show to him. This was the watch. And he purchased the watch. The watch remained his throughout his life. He left it to his favorite son. And back in 2002, here at Phillips, I've already had the pleasure and privilege to sell this watch for the first time. Back then, it achieved a world record for any Rolex ever sold at auction, less than $300,000 back then. And since then, scholars, collectors, auction house specialists always said, this is the Rolex that probably sums up an entire century of Rolex achievements and represents the pinnacle of Rolex collecting. Now we offer it with a starting price of 1.5 million francs. I have been told by a number of collectors, why so conservative? I'm not going to comment that. I don't have a crystal ball. But this watch here deserves to enter one of the most important private collections, to become one of the crowning top pieces in this collection. And I guess we have to wait another few weeks until we know what the most precious Rolex wristwatch is worth today.
Like I said, always a pleasure to listen to Mr. Bax, and we're naturally looking forward seeing what the actual results will be. Count on us to make a follow-up on this, and as a quick reminder, the auction is held on the 13th and 14th of May, and you are naturally more than welcome to participate either here in Geneva directly in the auction room, but also on Phillips' website for those of you that are interested. And there aren't only $1 million lots out there, so 237 lots, so best luck for all of you, for the most daring of you I should say. Thank you for your time, see you real soon with some other impressive vintage timepieces. All the very best.